Welcome to Kikao, your weekly focus on Africa's agriculture. This week, we ask the question, is agriculture the silver bullet for Africa? My name is Joe Agale. On this show, we will focus on some of the ways in which agriculture can transform Africa's economies. And in a short while, we'll be speaking to our panel for the week. But first, let's do a scene setter.
Basically, when you look at the broader picture around agricultural transformation in Africa, one of the areas that is critical in agricultural transformation is access to quality agricultural inputs, and not only accessing them, but also being able to afford the quality agricultural inputs. And you're looking at the agricultural inputs in the broader sense. You're looking at quality seed, you're looking at quality fertilizers, you're looking at quality agrochemicals. All agricultural inputs, including even extension and advisory services, they're all inputs. How do you ensure that our smallholder farmers are able to access this? One thing we need to appreciate is that in the agricultural space, we talk about the value chain, and therefore somebody is responsible for the production of the inputs. At the same time, we are operating in an environment that is regulated. So how can the farmer be sure that whatever they're accessing from whoever is manufacturing or producing is of high quality? It means we need to have a regulatory system that allows for checks on quality assurance and standards.
All right, let's now join Dr. Canisius Kanangire, the Executive Director of AATF, for that panel discussion for the week.
Thank you, Joe. There is an age-long belief that agriculture is the hub on which Sub-Saharan Africa's development will evolve. The biggest question remains on whether the present form of agriculture on the continent will be able to stimulate that development. Experts believe that agricultural transformation will lead to increased agricultural productivity and diversification, and this, in turn, will give rise to improved food and nutrition security and job creation through expanded commercialization and industrialization. But the transition from traditional rural societies towards more diversified, urban-centered societies with high productivity is a complex process that depends on the country's resource endowments, institutions, and other factors. On Kikao this week, we will examine the essential role of agricultural transformation in development. We will also look at the successes and failures this far and their far implication in the development process. My name is Dr. Canisius Kanangire. I'm the Executive Director of AATF. And my panel today is made of Dr. Prasanna Budupali, Director of CIMMYT's Global Maize Program, and One CGR Plant Health Initiative Leader, and architect Kabir Ibrahim, President, All Farmers Association of Nigeria. You are welcome, sirs.
Thank you.
Agricultural transformation has been a buzzword in many African countries. But what does it mean, really? What does it entail? How can you make it understandable for our viewers?
Thank you very much, Dr. Canisius. I am happy to be at the Kikao discussion. As you know, I'm from Nigeria, and we had ATA, Agricultural Transformation Agenda, a few years ago. And what came out clearly was that in Africa, we have to change the way we do things, especially from farming perspective. Hoes and cutlasses can never take us anywhere. Yeah. We need to do mechanization. We need to deploy technology. We need to have an educated mass that produces for people, and we need to add value. We need to process. We need to sell what we produce after value addition. If we sell anything in its primary form, we get nothing. Now, we have a very large population of young people in Africa who hitherto had looked upon agriculture as a drudgery that they have to do. to just subsist. Today, I think the world knows that the population of Africa and the arable land in Africa is something to look into in terms of providing food security for the whole world. I remember in 2017 or so, we attended a Global Food Security Conference in Ithaca at Cornell. And everybody was there, you know, antis of GMO and all that were there, and everybody looked upon Africa as where to go to get food security for the whole world. The thing that Africa should do to take advantage of that is to enhance what it does, deploy technology, farm the year round, use irrigation, because if you just farm like we do in Nigeria, the rain-fed agriculture is not enough. We need to do it the year round. And there has to be technology for drip systems of irrigation. We need to put a lot of machinery to do it. We need to add value by processing, but there are many things that are lacking in Africa.
So, yes, please.
Our power sector generally in Africa has to be looked into. We need to develop our own technology. You see, the first world, and I am talking about specifically about Brazil now. You see, Brazil until recently was considered a third world. They tried to innovate. They tried to bring out certain things that were common to them, developed them into a standard where it will enhance productivity and all that. And now we go to Brazil to get things for Africa.
I think we will come back to the details of this, but what I take for now is agriculture need to change a number of methodologies we are using currently, and also use modern tools which can enhance productivity. But also we need to think not only of dealing with raw produces, but add value. So it means a bit of industrialization. He talked about technology. And this is, I think, where Dr. Prasanna, it comes to your field now. How do we bring in knowledge, technology in this transformation of agriculture on the African continent?
So thanks very much, Dr. Canisius, for that question. In my perspective, agricultural transformation is actually not the end result. It's also a process. It's a process by which we improve farm productivity, we make farming more commercially viable, and also strengthen the interlinkages with several sectors that contribute to the economy. Three essential components here. First of all, the technologies or innovations that we bring in have to improve farm productivity, but also at the same time, they need to strengthen the social and environmental footprint at every stage of transformation. Secondly, farmers, especially in Africa, need much stronger access to modern tools, modern technologies, inputs, output markets to access, as well as financial resources that help them shift from the subsistence-oriented farming to more commercially oriented farming. And in all this, governments have a very important role to play. We need a much stronger political will and commitment to promote, to support, to invest in partnerships, including partnerships with a large area of public as well as private sector institutions that contribute to this transformation.
We have here, again, we have science coming in, technology, but also to work on tools, but not only on tools, but also linkages. And it brings me to the idea of the value chain that we need to look into. Who are the other players who come to into this transformation endeavor? Because we cannot do it only at the production level, at the farm level. But all this transformation, how does it contribute to uplifting Africa's economy? Because at the end, this is where we want to go. We want not only subsistence, you talked about it, we need to have the farmers going commercial and make agriculture a business. How does it uplift Africa's economies?
In many ways. You see, when you look at economic prosperity, it's not government having a lot of money in its kitty. It's the people having enhanced purchasing power. being able to do what they want to do at the time they want to do it. And then you get what is called food security. And food security really means eating what you want at the time you want, and that what you eat is also balanced nutritiously. Now, for Africa, what I think we should do is to be able to get a population that is well fed, that is that has good nutrition, and then you have good food security. Then from there you will be able to have a population that thinks even outside the box to get to the moon and all that. This is what happens in the first world. Prosperity means having comfortable zones within what you earn, no matter how small. But if, for instance, I would like to talk about Nigeria, for instance. Nigeria, we say we have oil, we have a lot of money, our economy is strong, but the larger part of the population is in abject poverty. Therefore, there is no national prosperity when you're on balance. The same thing happens, I think, in almost all other African countries. This should go away, because if you take Europe, for instance, the other time I was in France, the south of France, and farmers there are doing a lot of work. They are doing all year round farming. They are doing a lot of things for agriculture. They have a union that the government listens to. And when they say this is what they want, or the government brings out a policy, it is done with them in mind. So everybody is able to cater for themselves, do those things that government provides the enabling environment to thrive. Nobody expects anybody to feed them. We need to work and see what we do and earn what is reasonable from our own effort. And this is exactly what we mean. If you take the United States is quite rich because there is food security. Everybody, you can do a day's job and you will be able to feed your family and do that, and you can get all the good things of life from your effort. In Africa, I believe many of us are not getting our best from what we put in. The farmers are not, in Nigeria today, people are crying about skyrocketing prices of food and all that. But the reality is that it is only now that the farmers are getting good value for what they produce. So, if you look at it from this perspective, prosperity in Africa means working very deliberately towards getting food security, food sufficiency first, then other things will follow. And the only way we will do that is, as the doctor said, we must be able to have strong institutions that work, and we must have policies that are properly implemented, and policies that evolve from development.
There are so many things in your submission. The change, sufficiency in food, attaining food security and nutrition, and then freeing the mind to do other things which will even contribute more to the economic development. I think it is very important. Can you add one or two things to how this transformation can lead to the economic development of the continent?
Right. I think we need to take into consideration some critical facts here. More than 120 million people are presently out of jobs in Sub-Saharan Africa. And this would have been further exacerbated by the recent COVID-19 crisis. More than 400 million people in Africa are still living with less than $1.25 per day. We need to reduce this extreme poverty through agricultural transformation. Agriculture has to play a very critical role in job creation. And job creation is extremely important for the youth to be attracted towards agriculture and make it even more commercially viable. I am impressed by African Development Bank's vision on 4 different elements. They talk about targeted investments in specific value chains and agroecological zones to make this happen. We need self-sufficiency in certain important crops, for example, rice or wheat or fish or horticulture crops. We need to make, secondly, for those crops where there are strong value chain opportunities, we need to move towards that. The example, cocoa or coffee.
Yes.
Third, we need to make the Sahel region food secure.
Yes.
Sorghum, millets, livestock. And the Guinea region much more in terms of productivity and realize the full potential. Maize, for instance, soybean, livestock. So this targeted approach towards agricultural transformation with investments by appropriate agencies is very critical, and if we do
critical. I think we'll come back to the details, but I like the way you specify those different agroecological zones with their potential.
Yeah.
Actually, we can produce food from all the parts and pieces of this continent.
So Dr. Kanishans, if we do that, it can create as an estimated $110 to $115 billion annually within the next few years. That's the power of uplifting economy.
That is absolutely uplifting. Let's take a break, and when we come, we'll see where we are in that agricultural transformation.
Yep.
Welcome back to the Kikao session.
Thank you.
In the previous session, we were talking about the transformation and what we expect of it. And it is very good, it is needed. It can indeed uplift our economies. But why? From the Malabo Declaration, from the Cardiff, where our leaders talked about agricultural transformation almost 20 years down the road. What are the barriers which have hindered that transformation of the agricultural sector in Africa so that we can play a role in the economic growth of our continent?
I always look at the case of Nigeria, and I know what you are referring to. In 2002, we had the Malabo Declaration. First, it said all countries in this hemisphere should make available within their budgets about 10% for agricultural development. They had a number of pillars to which we, in Nigeria for instance, in 2008, we tried to look at storages, production, some form of commercialization. But we have a problem. We had a somersault of the policy. And then all the governments, no government up to date has provided that 10%. In fact, most of the administrations gave hardly 2%. That is a very serious problem.
Not even less than 1%.
Two, I think the greatest problem in Africa is consistency and policy implementation.
Policy implementation.
You know, you can have a very good policy when you appoint people who do not implement it, rather circumvent the thing. You are not appointing people on merit. You're not looking at merit in appointments. And you're not looking at transparency. You are not looking at many other things except probably where they come from, where the religions they have and all that. This is archaic. Nobody thinks like that. The world should look upon every individual who happens to be in the same geographical location as you, as same. As the man progresses, you also progress. If in your village, for instance, you have all the money, if you bring out anything to sell, nobody would buy because they have no money. So Africa as a whole should look at itself as the United States of Africa. You know, we must be able to do things to uplift our brothers and sisters. That way, we will have a global outlook to all this. Now, if you catalog all these things and put them in perspective, you'll see that we are the problem of lack of the achievements that we should have. 20 years down the line, we have had nothing. There is nothing that you can really write home about in Africa that is consistent and sustainable. Some people will go this way, they will keep going. Take, for instance, in Nigeria, we have what they call the agricultural promotion policy is supposed to be a policy for 4 years. It's supposed to have been replaced in 2020. Up to now, we have not launched the new policy that will take care of it. That new policy is the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy. Now, this is taking us to the Kikao discussion.
I think there is a problem of policy. Good policies are there, but implementation makes it a problem.
Right.
And there are many factors which lead to that.
So I will categorize these barriers, Dr. Canisius, in 3 ways. One, there are multitude of somewhat uncoordinated initiatives. There are lots of initiatives funded by the local agencies, international funding organizations, but these are somewhat competing with each other in terms of that limited investments or private investments. And so there is a lack of Pan-African focus and coordination. That to me is a major barrier. Secondly, there are several good ideas. There are hundreds of publications that have come out, but not enough implementation. Ideas are there. Excellent articles are written on how to bring that agricultural transformation, but we need much better implementation at the local level. The third aspect is that there is insufficiently developed ecosystem in general for agricultural market developments. And that is perhaps limiting the potential of Africa's agricultural transformation.
There are two things you came to: uncoordination and lack of consistency, and then things are not sustainable. Many initiatives, but disconnection. I think that is one of the key challenges, in addition to the policies which are not implemented. But still, we all think that agricultural transformation is essential.
Right.
And you say there are so many ideas, so many publications. We have what it requires to transform agriculture. I want to ask you a question, and I wish you to be more practical. What are the steps that we need to take? Because here we have policies and they will be there. We have a problem of technology and we need technology. And we have many players to connect the farmers to the end users. There are many players there. How do we do that? What could be the key steps that we take to have this noble goal of having the agriculture in Africa transformed to a vibrant one?
There are many things. In fact, I was reminiscing on a number of them. The concept of dependency on agriculture is really African. We have a large percentage of cultivable land in the continent. Other countries of the world are looking upon us for food security in 2050. Here we are. As he said, we are not very coordinated. So the thing that we should do to make sure that these things happen is to look at agriculture first and foremost as the backbone of our economy. Any other thing is a bonus, and in fact, we came to appreciate that it could contribute something because of some actions in so many cases of our colonizers. If you take, for instance, when I went to school, when I began going to school in Nigeria, oil was not the main thing. It was agriculture. Everything that we got in my early part, going to school was from agriculture. So we should be able to harness all the possibilities in agriculture. Whatever happens elsewhere, all the mineral resources and everything that we get from underground or above ground or everywhere should simply support agricultural transformation.
So now, prioritize agriculture.
The priority should be agriculture in Africa. As you said, I mean, in the opening statement, there is even an age-long belief that Africa is where agriculture takes place. And agriculture anywhere in the world is a rural thing.
What are the key practical steps that we should take?
Now I started mentioning some of them. I'm not an expert in this business, but I know very well that you must have a policy that you implement judiciously.
Yes.
If you don't implement the policy, it is as good as just there.
Yeah.
Now, you need to also appoint people who know what to do. If they are going to drive the agenda, they have to know what to do, and they don't have to be people you like. There are people who can do the job. You give it to them and they do it. And then there are certain things that have to be contiguously done. Like if you don't have good power, you have a lot of post-harvest loss, because so many of these things will spoil in a matter. Even egg, for instance, the shelf life of egg, when left like that, is hardly 1 week. You must be able to have an egg room where you keep your eggs and all that. When you kill your cows, you must be able to keep the meat where it will be kept for good. When you even get grains, you must be able to. All those things, infrastructure is very important. The transportation, you must have good transportation from the place of production to the place of need. You must also be able to attract foreign exchange from what you produce. The other countries of the world, take the people who are giving us a lot of rice in Nigeria, Thailand, and all those places. They had enough. In fact, they were giving us maize that they couldn't eat. It had been there in the silo for a very long time, and they were just dumping it on us. So Africa has started doing something, but we should take it to fruition. And that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Open more market.
It should open more market, and it should incentivize people to produce and to produce.
And Dr.
globally.
Prasanna talked about the market many times.
Yes.
And this AFTA could probably bring a solution. Do you have some key steps, practical steps?
I would highlight 4 or 5 key steps here. The first one is complementing what Kabir has said. We need to have prioritized and differentiated strategies for Africa. We don't treat Africa as a homogeneous entity. There are multiple countries with the different levels of capacity, multiple regions with the different needs, farming communities with diverse interests and needs. So prioritized and differentiated strategies. Market-driven opportunities for the farmers is critical. That's the second most important aspect.
Yeah.
We need to have change agents. Those change agents could be institutions. Those change agents could be farmer organizations. Those change agents could be international organizations that contribute to agricultural growth in Africa. So we need to identify those specific change agents which can help implement those strategies in a targeted manner. Fourth, we need to identify what technologies are working, which can be scaled up easily in the continent, in those particular value chains. And we need to make progress on enabling policies and creation of enabling environment for private sector investment is utmost crucial for agricultural transformation.
And this will come to add, I think, more power to the issue of allocation, financial allocation that Kabir talked about, where in most of our countries we have not been even close to the 10%.
Exactly, investment from public sector funding on agricultural.
Despite the good commitment.
Absolutely. But one more important aspect that we perhaps not touched so far is about the gender gap.
Yes.
This is a very, very critical aspect. We cannot hope to have agricultural transformation in Africa without empowering women and youth. Women constitute a major workforce, but they have inequitable access to technologies, decision making at the household level or at the community level, and as well as financial resources. So we need to empower women. Without that, we cannot make the change happen.
And empower the youth, because they are the future. They are the future. They are the one who will take.
So to me, although and this should not be just paying lip service, we need to have specific programs on how to make women and youth as powerful and catalytic agents for agricultural transformation in this country.
In a coordinated environment.
In a coordinated environment.
Let's take a break, and when we come, we will continue discussions at another level.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Kikao session. In the previous session, I liked a very good idea, which I will come back to for the interest of our viewers. You talked of the United States of Africa, and that unicity of the continent is a great thing. And it's now being translated, I would say, into policies and commitment by the AFTA you talked about, opening a big market at the continental level where people can trade services, but also products, including agricultural products. That is a fantastic thing. As you said, I hope that it will be implemented as it was thought about. Now, you talked about the specificity of Africa in different regions, which is not contradictory at all to this.
Yeah.
And indeed, we have regions which are very, where we have
progressing
a lot
very
of rain.
fast. Yeah.
Yes, we have the Sahel region with less rain, but with other specificities, and we can adapt our crops to those specificities of the regions.
And our transformation plans according to those
Yeah, that will be fantastic. And then we open the market with this new unity of the African continent. And then we tailor the strategies to each one of those regions. I think those two ideas, if we combine them very meticulously, that will lead the transformation of the agricultural sector. Now, with all that said, what could be the success stories that we have in agricultural transformation, first across the world and in our continent, Africa? Do you give it the first shot?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, there are documented success stories in terms of agricultural transformation. For example, in Asia, where I come from, where I lived for so many years of my life and worked for almost 20 years there before coming to Africa 12 years back, there are success stories from Korea, from Thailand, from Malaysia, from Vietnam, and more recently Bangladesh is making strong progress too. But I will particularly highlight the Thailand story. In the transformation process, there are different phases. Thailand started with something like getting agriculture moving from the 1910 to 1960, where they established a research and extension system across the country, initiated labor and land reforms, and started foreign trade agreements. From 1961 to 1985, they moved towards making agriculture as a contributor to the national growth.
Yes.
Especially focusing on high value crops and focusing on export oriented schemes and strengthening again the standards to meet the international trade. And then they moved towards agriculture as an integrator of modern macroeconomy. And today, Thailand is one of the best producers and sellers of baby corn industry. The baby corn market produces millions of dollars worth economy to Thailand. Similarly, high value crops, export oriented nature, incentives to farmers who grow those high value crops, food chains, as well as contract farming to meet those targets. And most recently, the Thai government has announced a national digital transformation plan. National digital transformation plan. So trying to get digital agriculture into being actually in every province of Thailand. So to me, this is one of the major success stories that we need to emulate. Maybe we need to tweak it depending upon our context.
Adapt it to the conditions of this continent. And this is something which happened in just 3 decades.
In 3 decades.
So it can happen. It can happen quickly.
Yes.
Do we have some cases in Africa?
Yeah, we do. If you look at Ethiopia, for instance, Ethiopia has made tremendous progress in agriculture. Largely because it has incentivized the smallholder farmers to be able to sell what they produce on an exchange system that is near perfect. So people are incentivized to produce more and therefore add value to the economy. You know, we used to have a lot of information on farming, on many things from Ethiopia. Now, but because of the conflicts and all that, Ethiopia would have been another matter entirely. If you look at Rwanda, for instance, look at Nigeria, where I come from, there are many, many innovations now, beginning from the ATA, the Agricultural Transformation Agenda, to the Agricultural Promotion Policy. Government has taken the farmers along. And then farmers are incentivized to, or people generally in the private sector are incentivized to really invest in agriculture now. I mean, I for one, I deprecate corruption. But I have seen an example in Sussex, in Winston House. You know, I attended some of the discussions there. The Winston or Wilson Park is a house that was built from the process of corruption. But it is being used now as a center for discussing issues towards the SDGs. And there are communications there that make you a spokesperson at the UN. You know, but you know, all the people who stole money from Africa should be advised to come and invest in agriculture in Africa, and then we will have the best for it. Now, you know, there are many things that I mentioned. I mentioned the idea of United States of Africa. Africa has been doing a lot of things. You mentioned the issue of CADEP. This is literally African. Then there is AFTA now, that has the potential to really make all African countries specifically interested in AFTA because of the comparative advantages that they have in certain crops that they produce. Take, for instance, if a country in the Sahel region is capable of producing something seamlessly, all other parts of Africa should patronize it.
Yes.
So that it will export these things to Africa. And then, you know, this idea of Africa or African countries, scaling up or meeting conditionalities of global gap, for instance, it will make your produce acceptable in Europe. But you do global gap in Africa. The African population is very high. The demands for what you produce are very high. You should be able to have good agricultural practices for Africa. Have a healthy and safe food for the African countries, so that we will all work together. If you look at EU, for instance, EU is very strong because there is cohesion.
Yes.
There are certain things that in fact, what I tell you is there is absolute racism in all the things that you do in Africa. They don't get you don't get to sell them in Europe, because there is collusion between all of the European countries to say that what you produce is not good enough. But they informally take what we do and through the back door there, and they're all in the markets. If you go anywhere in Europe, you find so many things with origins in Africa that have been taken, you know, informally. But from the governmental point of view, through diplomacy and all that, they tell you that you have to do this, you have to do this.
There are standards which need to be upheld, and this, I think you touched it at a certain time. Thailand met the standard so that they can be able to export the product and meet the requirement of the global market. And Africa is doing it. Actually, we are importing. All the transactions are happening, but the standards, of course, need to be upheld by our farmers, and there is a great effort on this. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges we talked about in the introduction, but also the requirement of transforming the agriculture, technology, finance, and others. But now we are talking of some success stories across the world, and in Africa we have some. My brother here talked about them. When you look at all those and then project your sight in the future, how does the road to the future look like? If you look at 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what will be the agriculture, and which level will we have reached in this endeavor of transforming agriculture into a vibrant economic sector?
I think we need to take some important trends here. What's happening in Africa? First, most important thing is about climate change.
Climate change.
Agricultural transformation plans need to make African countries much more resilient and adaptive to the changes that are happening in the climates and the implications in terms of increasing frequency of abiotic stresses as well as biotic stresses. In the last 1 decade, there have been 6 devastating epidemics of invasive pests in this continent. 6 devastating epidemics. And those things will continue to happen. How well positioned are we to tackle the changes that are happening there? That's the number one aspect we need to look into. The second aspect is about malnutrition. There's out of over 800 million people who are malnourished in the world, almost 230 million people are in this continent. This is almost 23.2% or so. This is an alarming fact. It's not just about agricultural transformation, is about food security.
And it has a far-reaching
implication on our economy. The disabilities and the capacities to make agriculture vibrant in Africa is not happening because there are large sectors of pockets of malnourishment. So this is where I think we need to focus on not just food security lens, but also nutritional security, environmental security.
As a farmer and as an African and a champion of this wide Africa where connections between nations are, where do you see the transformation of agriculture from now to the next 10 years, 20 years?
I'm hopeful that Africa will be different if we abide by all the things that we are mentioning. You need to do climate smart agriculture.
Climate smart agriculture.
You need to do a lot of mechanization.
Mechanization.
You need to do a lot of innovation. You need to be focused on policy implementation. You need to have transparency. You need to attract the private sector. You need to be fair or to treat fairly the gender issue and youth. The population of youth in Africa is almost 60%. You need to incentivize the youth to embrace agriculture, not to look upon it as a drudgery that must be done. People should wake up. I trained as an architect. I diversified into agriculture. I made good money in agriculture. I mean in architecture. I diversified in agriculture and I'm here now 22 years. And I've been advocating for agriculture. I will tell you one simple story. I embrace biotechnology and I don't see any connection between GM crops and any disease. I've read voraciously on this subject. I've attended seminars and conferences. I cannot, nobody has told me that there is an established connection between, or nexus between cancer, say, and GMOs. I've attended programs, as I told you, in the best universities in the world, where people came together and talked about all this, and I have seen not that. And I think the development of GM crops can go a long way in Africa. Absolutely. To take us out of poverty and to make us competitive in our economies. So a lot of things,
a lot of things need to be done.
That you need to do to take Africa to the level that it needs to be. We need to enhance our processing capacity. We need to add value to what we produce, and people should be coming to Africa for what we can offer. I mean, I used to go to the Americas, UK, I mean Europe and all that for shopping and sightseeing. I want a situation where people don't just come to Africa to look at elephants and all that.
Yes.
They need to come here and get good food and get things
buy
to take
food
to back.
also.
And so this is what I foresee happening in the next couple of years if the right kind of focus is given to agriculture.
I think I took from your submissions that first, Africa cannot feed its population if we continue to use a hoe and a cutlass. We need absolutely to bring in modern tools to enhance productivity. Modern tools mean mechanization, mean knowledge and technology in all its form, including what you concluded with. GMO is one of the technology. It is an option that we should also be presenting to our farmers. This is possible. It can shield you against or reduce the pressure with those different diseases, pressures, epidemics that you talked about. And then we need absolutely to work on reducing the post-harvesting losses.
Yes.
And this is through a number of technologies, but also through processing those produces, adding value and reducing the losses. And that will lead to bringing an increased income to the farmers and contribute more significantly to the economic development of our continent as the policies are being implemented and the market being widely opened on the continental level. I think we cannot wait to see in 10 years the agricultural sector in Africa being transformed into something which is attractive, not only for the villagers, but also for intellectuals like architects and doctors in science, and also different other components of our population, especially the women and
the youth.
So
here I would like to bring one or two quick points. Governments need to be display much better political will and commitment to bring disruptive agricultural technologies as catalysts for change.
Yes.
Whether it is biotechnology, whether it is processing technologies, whether it is modern tools that can improve farm productivity, improve nutritional security and environmental health. Disruptive agricultural technologies, research has a strong transformative power, and that transformative power has to be tapped in.
Yes.
We need institutions and partnerships. Dr. Canisius, partnerships. If that at various levels between public and private sector, between institutions and farming communities, between investors and other actors in the value chain, partnerships are in need.
And I will add one other thing, communication. Because we need absolutely to bring all these things we are talking about to the policymakers, to the decision makers, who will create the enabling environment for those technologies and other productivity enhancing factors to come into play, to be implemented. Yes. I want to thank you very much for this very rich conversation we have. I believe that we will have a continuation of the same.
Thank you so much.
The transformation of the agriculture in Africa is a continuous endeavor, and we need to accelerate the pace.
Yes.
So that in the next 10 years when we meet in this Kikao, we talk of a different thing and more success stories. Viewers, thank you very much for your listening. And I believe that you learned a lot from these gentlemen, and that you will contribute to transforming agricultural sector. We have all a role to play, independently from your specialization and your work in different areas of the economic development of your country, of your continent. I thank you very much, and I invite you to the next Kikao session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been Kikao, your weekly focus on agriculture. Until next week, my name is Joe Agayo.